Hi everybody, and big welcome to a cEDH deck tech video. This time we're joined by Emil, bringing his Grand Arbiter Augustin IV, a Azorius or typical Azorius stacks decks, but not in this case.
No, this is different because we all know that stacks doesn't really work, does it? I think the more stacks pieces you put into a deck, the higher the risk is that you will fall victim to the old king making trouble dilemma. Medium heavy on interaction, in my opinion. I don't know what others would say, but when it comes to interaction, one highlight is Commandeer, which I really love as a card. It is one hell of a reason to go to the LGS and play some Magic, because it's so fun. As you can see, this is an Azorius deck, but almost all spells are blue to allow such cards as Force of Will and Commandeer.
So you're basically playing this to mostly reduce your own casting spells in the end, kinda?
Yeah. The main reason for my commander, which is a great stacks piece, is also to reduce the cost of my spells. Just think of it. If you have a 2-cost spell and you have your commander out, your Voice of Victory, this new epic card, will only cost 1 mana because it only has 1 pip. Ritual spells like Frantic Surge and even Ghostly Flicker with an Ancient Tomb will net you mana and even go off. Ghostly Flicker is one of the end combo cards that we will get into later. Apostle's Blessing, which is a protection spell for free, works as a trigger for Displacer Kitten and even for Orvar. The reason for including Orvar is both that it's a rather questionable wink on, but it can also become a random permanent, or rather the best permanent in on the board if somebody wheels, which happens at least in tournament EDH a lot, wheel effects. So yeah, that's a really fun card, but it's not something that you have to rely on. What you really want to rely on a lot, and almost too much in this deck, is Displacer Kitten. There are other ways to go infinite, but Displacer Kitten is definitely the main attraction in this deck because it allows you to flicker Archaeomancer. Archaeomancer is an amazing card because it's a 1/2, so it's weak, which means that you can find it with Recruiter of the Guard.
This actually takes us to like how you're kind of winning the game, because like sure you're reducing the casting cost here, but we have to win. We have to end the game eventually.
Yes. The problem with Azorius decks that we all know is that it's hard to get to the end of the game and actually win. And if you have seen my 2 last games on the gameplay videos where I joined with Grand Arbiter, I won one really easily, and the other one
I would say easily.
I can. Okay, I can.
You had to work for it.
Well, I won the first one really quickly, at least. I wouldn't say easily. What you need to do in an Azorius deck is that you need to build a board. You need to draw lots of cards. That way, you can get to the end, if you're not lucky, like me. If you put a bunch of stacks pieces in your deck, you will find that your opponents will trade their cards to remove your stacks pieces, which is simply not working if you have a commander that doesn't draw your cards. Back to the commander. So it's a cost reducer and a silence effect on your turn, or at least a pseudo-silence effect.
True.
Let's say that I have a Force of Will or something, and somebody casts 1 counterspell on my turn. My Force of will have the same value as a silence effect if that is the only spell that they can afford mana-wise. They may have 100 cards in their hand. If they can't pay for them, because they have to pay 1 extra for every goddamn spell, then they will be silenced by my commander.
So how do you win? How do you finalize a victory? It sounded like Recruit of the Guard was key here.
Yeah. Is what you need to go off in this very clean example where I have a useless Mox Diamond without any lands in my hand, a Recruiter of the Guard, and my commander out, and 7 mana. And in most scenarios, most real scenarios, I will have other stuff on the board, like the Delny in our recent YouTube video that we did. So yeah, I'll play Recruiter of the Guard here. It costs me 2 mana, 1 colorless and 1 white. Then the Recruiter of the Guard finds a Displacer Kitten. I will cast this Displacer Kitten for 1 blue and 2 colorless. I now need to trigger the Displacer Kitten. So I'll have to spend my Mox Diamond. That does nothing, except it does something. It triggers Displacer Kitten to recruit another creature. The recruited creature will be a Trinket Mage. I will spend the last 2 mana I need for this combo to work out to play Trinket Mage. Trinket Mage now finds me artifacts. I will find a Mox Opal. I'll cast the Mox Opal. That triggers Displacer Kitten. That triggers Recruiter of the Guard. I will find a Mox Amber. That triggers Displacer Kitten and Recruiter of the Guard. I will find a Mana Vault. I'll tap the Mox Amber for white and cast Mana Vault. That triggers these 2 again, which lets me find a Sol Ring. I'll tap the Mana Vault for 3 white. I will spend 1 of them to cast a Sol Ring, and that lets me find a Springleaf Drum. I'll cast the Springleaf Drum, and this is enough stuff for me to continue with Spellseeker. So when I cast my Springleaf Drum, I will now, instead of triggering the Trinket Mage a bunch of times, I will now find a Spellseeker. So here comes the Spellseeker. I will now cast the Spellseeker for 1 and a blue. Now I will find something that generates me mana, because I need pips most of all. I also have a Lotus Petal in my deck. So I will find a Hidden Strings. I'll tap a blue to cast Hidden Strings, which untaps 2 permanents. I will just untap these 2 permanents, my Mox Amber and my Mox Opal. And if I can attack with my commander in this case, and trigger him by connecting to a player, I can cast Hidden Strings again, which makes this much easier to understand. But let's say I can't. I now have 2 pips and another search by casting the Hidden Strings. So I will just search up the Lotus Petal that I forgot about. Cast Lotus Petal, that triggers stuff again, and I get to search for another spell with Spellseeker, and in this case it should be a Planar Incision. I will pay 1 blue and cast Planar Incision, targeting my Spellseeker. But Planar Incision is a flicker spell, so it lets me find both a Spellseeker and a creature, thanks to to Displacer Kit. So the spell will be just a Git Probe, and the creature will be a Phantasmal Image. I will now spend 1 blue to cast Phantasmal Image. The Phantasmal Image will enter as a Displacer Kit. Then I will play my Gitaxian Probe, plop, and get 2 triggers. These 2 triggers I can use to get a Spellseeker trigger and a Recruiter of the Guard. Also, I will draw a random card, but just ignore that. Those 2 cards will be stuff that generate me more mana. I will go for Snap and a Cloud of Fairies. I'll spend my last blue mana, cast Cloud of Fairies. I get 2 blue mana, because I have 2 blue lands. Of course I do. I will pay 1 blue and cast Snap on my Cloud of Fairies. That gives me 2 triggers from my Displacer Kittens, so I can now find a creature and a spell with Spellseeker. And I untap 2 lands, which I will represent by just putting mana here. I will now have Cloud of Fairies in my hand. I will now put the creature that I searched with Recruiter of the Guard into my hand, and the spell with that I searched with Spellseeker into my hand. Let's say I choose Apostle's Blessing. It doesn't really matter what I choose. Okay, so I will spend 1 blue, cast Cloud of Fairies, get 2 blue mana. I will then pay 2 mana, tap my Sol Ring, float 1 colorless, and cast Archaeomancer. Archaeomancer enters and finds, let's say that I go for Planar Incision. And here, boys and girls, we have an infinite combo. I can cast Planar Incision targeting Archaeomancer, and with the Displacer Kittens, I can just regenerate mana targeting Cloud of Fairies or something. Yeah, so that is a very, very long explanation of how you win with Recruiter of the Guard.
So what you basically get there is a kinda one card combo, which is really good. However, you do need something of a setup, as Emil illustrated. You need a bunch of mana.
Yes.
However, you can make it easier to pop off earlier if you have something like a Delny in play already, because that's gonna be double trigger, so it goes faster. And that would require less mana potentially, and of course you could accidentally just draw into Displacer Kitten or redevelop some pieces here and there first.
Exactly. There are other ways to go off, like with the Defiler of Dreams that you have there. It basically lets you play all your blue permanents for free if you have it's amazing, and you draw cards when you do as well.
Yeah.
So it's really fun. Play Heuristic Study, draw a card.
Yeah.
Holy hell.
So you could basically say that the combo you illustrated right now is the kind of thing you want to do, and the rest of the deck is trying to support that combo concept a little bit more, so to say, with some Defiler of the Dreams that is going to make it easier, so to say. And with that, thank you so much for watching, guys, and we'll be back in the future with more deck tech videos. Take care, and we'll see you in the next one.